We've all heard the textbook answer. A single assassination in Sarajevo sparked the First World War. But the truth is far more complex and far more dangerous. In this video, we dig beneath the headlines to uncover the real reasons World War I began. It wasn't just about one event. It was a boiling point of hidden rivalries, secret alliances, imperial ambitions, and a continent on the edge. This was a war waiting to happen, and the assassination was simply the spark that lit a long-prepared fuse. Join us as we unravel the deeper causes behind one of history's deadliest conflicts. Today we will talk about the real reason World War I started. So before we get started, make sure to hit that like button. Also subscribe to my channel. Europe before the storm. In the decades leading up to 1914, Europe was not a peaceful place. Beneath the surface of glittering empires and royal diplomacy, there was an intense and growing competition for power. Nations were industrializing rapidly. Empires were expanding. Armies were getting larger. And fear was spreading like wildfire. The major European powers, Britain, France, Germany, Russia, Austria-Hungary, and the Ottoman Empire, were engaged in a high-stakes game of politics, economics, and military muscle. No one trusted each other. Everyone was preparing for war, even as they talked about peace. This tension led to the creation of two powerful military alliances. On one side was the Triple Entente, made up of France, Russia, and Britain. On the other, the Triple Alliance, which included Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy. While these alliances were originally designed to deter war, they actually had the opposite effect. They made the risk of conflict even greater. If one country went to war, the others would be dragged in, like dominoes falling in rapid succession. The rise of nationalism and imperialism. Another key factor was nationalism. Across Europe, people were beginning to identify more strongly with their nation or ethnic group. In countries like Germany, there was a growing sense of pride and superiority. In others, like the Balkans, nationalist movements were tearing empires apart from within. Serbia, for example, wanted to unite all Slavic peoples in the Balkans, many of whom were under Austrian rule. This created serious tension between Serbia and Austria-Hungary, especially as Serbia began to gain support from Russia, which saw itself as the protector of Slavic nations. Meanwhile, imperialism was fueling competition overseas. European powers were scrambling to colonize parts of Africa and Asia, trying to outdo each other economically and militarily. Germany, a relatively young empire, felt left out of the global colonial race and was determined to catch up. This created deep resentment, particularly toward Britain and France, who had already carved up much of the world. The arms race and the cult of war. While all of this was happening, the nations of Europe were arming themselves at an alarming rate. The late 19th and early 20th centuries saw a dramatic rise in military spending. Modern weapons, larger navies, faster mobilization plans. These were seen not only as necessary for defense, but as symbols of national pride. Germany, in particular, had launched a massive naval buildup to challenge British supremacy at sea. Britain responded by expanding its own fleet. It became a dangerous cycle, each side trying to outdo the other, each preparing for a war that seemed inevitable. At the same time, many people viewed war not as something to be avoided, but as a cleansing force. Writers, politicians, and even military leaders believed that war could restore honor, prove national strength, and bring unity. This romantic view of battle, completely detached from its brutal reality, played a dangerous role in pushing Europe toward the edge. The assassination that lit the fuse. On June 28, 1914, Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, was assassinated in Sarajevo by Gavrilo Princip, a Bosnian Serb nationalist. This event, while tragic, was not particularly unusual in a region known for political violence. But Austria-Hungary saw the assassination as an opportunity, a chance to crush Serbia once and for all. Within weeks, Austria issued an ultimatum to Serbia with demands so extreme they were almost certain to be rejected. Serbia tried to negotiate, but Austria was not interested. Backed by Germany, they declared war on Serbia on July 28, 1914. Russia, loyal to Serbia and eager to assert itself, began mobilizing its army. Germany responded by declaring war on Russia. France, allied with Russia, joined the conflict. When Germany invaded neutral Belgium to attack France, Britain entered the war to defend Belgian neutrality. Just like that, Europe was engulfed in war. But this chain reaction only worked because the groundwork had already been laid. The assassination was merely the trigger. The real cause was the deep, unresolved tensions that had been building for decades. The role of miscommunication and overconfidence. One of the most tragic aspects of World War I is how quickly it escalated, and how few leaders seemed to understand the consequences. Many believed the war would be short. They thought their side would win easily. Military planners were so confident in their strategies that they ignored warnings and rushed into battle. But they were wrong. The war dragged on for 4 brutal years, killing over 20 million people and wounding millions more. It destroyed empires, redrew borders, and created the conditions that would lead to an even more devastating conflict just 2 decades later. So why did it happen? Not because of a single assassination, but because of an entire system built on fear, pride, and distrust. A system where nations armed themselves for a war they hoped to avoid, but secretly expected. A cautionary tale for the modern world. The story of how World War I started is more than just a history lesson. It's a warning. Today, we live in a world with nuclear weapons, global alliances, and growing political tension. The same ingredients that led to World War I. Nationalism, arms races, and strategic miscalculations still exist. The difference is that the stakes are even higher. We often think of history as a series of dates and names, but at its core, it's about choices. The choices made by leaders, generals, and everyday people. World War I reminds us that even the smallest spark can ignite a global fire if the world is already covered in fuel. The forgotten lessons of 1914. A century later, many of the deeper causes of World War I remain buried under the simple narrative of an assassination. But the truth is much darker and more complex. It wasn't one man or one nation. It was the result of years of mistrust, reckless policies, and a failure to imagine the consequences. What do you think of our video? Let me know in the comments section below. Before you go, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.